So what is a namespace? Namespace is a way of logically grouping your types. So why do we need to logically group types? We took the example of Sai Krishna, and I said that Sai Krishna, I know where he lives, so I went to his apartment, but I don't know the flat number, so I started shouting Sai Krishna, and four people came out, and because all of them, they have the same name called as Sai Krishna. Fine. So for exactly referring to the person whom I want to interact with, okay, and not to give any chance of ambiguity, I should know something which is unique with him, right? So might be I can use his last name and I can call him with his last name, then I'll be able to call the person who with whom I'm looking to talk, right? So in that way you can avoid ambiguity, right? So similarly, think that I have created a first class, I have created a class called as first class. Now let me add in one more file called as class2, and maybe this is the file, and inside the same namespace I am trying to add one more class, and I am trying to give the same name called as my first class here. Let's see what happens. When I run this or when I build the application, what will happen? It should throw a error. Is it throwing error? What is the error? The namespace called as console34 already contains a definition for my first class, right? So now let me change the namespace class2 and let me run this. Is it getting compiled successfully? How to look whether it is compiled successfully or not? You can click on something called as output window. Fine. Do you see any errors here? No, right? Let me build the application. Fine. Is it getting built? Is it throwing errors? No, right? So this is how you can use the namespace to logically group certain set of types, and this in turn helps you in uniquely identifying a particular class. Fine. Instead of having ambiguity. Making sense? Now let me give you some real-time practical examples of how your namespace looks like. There are certain group of types here. Okay, I'll show you what is the purpose of having namespace in practice. So do you see a control with name control and control? There are two components with name control here, right? Good. If you see, the namespaces are different. How are they existing with the same name? If you see, one is related to your web-based applications and other one is related to your Windows-based applications, right? Understood? And if you see, there is something called as data grid, and you have some other thing called as data grid. Both of them, they are grid controls, and both of them, they have same name, same class name. But if you see, they are referring to different namespaces, right? So that is how your namespaces can help you in uniquely identifying a type or a class. Fine. What is a namespace? Namespace is logically grouping of your type, and it can be used to uniquely identify your class. Making sense? Good. So now this is how we create a class, and now let me create some attributes associated with it. Excuse me. Maybe I'll call it as car, and I'll assign an attribute called as uh, int public int engine cc. Fine. And let me add one more attribute or one more field called as public color string color. Fine. So these are, you did not create a class of car. I have created it, right? Class car. On right side, these are files actually. Okay. When you are creating for the first time, you'll see that the whatever name you will be giving to your class, a file will be created with same name. If you see the class 2, I have created it for the first time. Okay, I have created it in a separate file. However, this file can contain multiple classes, so I have added a new class called as my first class there, right? So don't get confused with file and class. Okay, so I have created a file called as my first class, and by default it gave me a class called as my first class. Now I have changed it to car. Got it? Understood? Good. Now let us add few methods to it again. How to add a method? Int get mm, 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 get color. Okay, there is a simple method I have, and what is it doing? Let me write some. I'll create it as void. What is the difference between int and void? Void says that it will not, this method will not return anything. Okay, but if I replace it with int or string or something like that, it says that it will return something. Fine. Good. So now inside that, let me write a statement console.writeLine of what does console.writeLine refers to? It will write something to your console. Fine. It will write something onto your Windows console. So I'll say console.writeLine of color of this car is so what does this refers to? If I mention something, some number inside my opening and closing braces, it will say that after this statement there will be some parameter which I will be passing, and that should be represented in position of this number. And if I say 1 here, then at the second position there should be some parameter. Fine. Basically this is a array of arguments. Okay, it will pick the argument based on this index. Fine. And the index starts with 0. Making sense? Good. So now let us go back to our program.cs and let's create an object of my car class. Fine. How to create it? Car obj equal to new car. Fine. Using the new keyword. Exactly. Good. Now I should assign some value to the members of my car object. So obj dot color equal to red. Fine. And I'll call the method also. How will I call the method? Obj dot get color. Fine. If I run this, it should display the color of this car is red on the console, right? Will it display if I run it like this? What's your expectation? Will it display or not? Yes, good. Let me run it. Did it display? Yes or no? I'm running it. Did it display or not? We need to include what, Vishwa? Namespace? No, you need not include any namespace, but the problem here is it is displaying something onto the console and it will be closing it because the program gets end. Fine. So to make it wait, okay, you can't see that because it just displays and closes. So to make it wait till you see that, what you will write? You'll write something called as console.read. What will this do? This will expect you to give some input onto the screen. Okay, so until you hit some key on your keyboard, it will wait. Once you click it, it will close. What is Control F5, Vishwa? I don't understand. What is Control F5? Good. Good. It will ask you press any key until you do that. Okay. Usually we will write a console.read at the end. Okay. That will also do the same thing, but you don't want to see that text on the screen, right? Making sense? Good. So color of the car is red. Now this is about here get color. Okay, fine. Now let me, so this is about the members which are defined inside your class. You have created a two variables or fields here, and you have created a method as well. Now let's move to the next concept called as inheritance. Okay, so now I'll create a something called as supercar, and how to inherit it from the base class called as car. How to do that? Good. Colon car, and I am not writing anything inside it. Fine. Now I'll remove all this code, and what I'll do, I'll create a object of supercar type. Fine. Excuse me. Good. Now if I type object dot, I will be seeing all my members which are defined in my base class, right? Color, engine, and get color. However, I did not define them in my child class. Due to inheritance, as it is inheriting from the base class, it is able to access the parent classes fields as well. Okay, let me pass on green, and let me call the method. Okay, pj dot get color. Fine, should display the same thing. Okay, color of the car is green. So you are able to access the method which is defined in my base class using the child classes object. Fine. Before getting further, let me write a method called as mm, 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 mm. Good. So what is this method called as? What is this method called as? This method has the same name as your class name. Awesome. Same name as your class name. What is this called as? This is called as constructor. Fine. So if you go back to here, when will this method get called? Any idea? So the constructor is the method which gets called when you are creating a new instance or new object of that particular class type. Making sense? Whenever a object is created or when you are creating a new instance of your class, then this constructor would be called. Fine. Just give me a second, guys. Good. So now let us see. Console.line. Fine. And I'll create an instance of car instead of supercar. Fine. So let's see what will happen. Is it getting called? Is it getting called or not? Why so? Why is it not getting called? Why is it not getting called? Okay. I should make it public. Now it should get called. Did I create an instance of my car? Okay, one second. I think the name is different. Member names. Good. Is it getting called now? You should not make your constructor as static Vishwa until and unless it is required. If you make a constructor static, then what does that mean? That means you are not making it. You can't create an instance of it, right? So static constructor is something which you should learn later. Okay. Making sense? Is it getting called? Name was different actually. I used small c. Good. So now let me do one more thing. Public supercar. Fine. And what I'll do, I'll write fine. Now if I create a instance of supercar, which constructor would be called? Any guess? Will it call this constructor or will it call this constructor? Will it call parent constructor? Good. It should call both of them. Okay, first it will call this and after that it will call this. And there is a very good interview question actually. Fine. Making sense? When you have two classes which are tagged through your inheritance, then both the constructors would be called and you create an instance of the child class. Fine. Understood? If I create an instance of car, which constructor would be called now? Which constructor would be called? Here. Good. Fine. Now let me do something else. Let us try some other can I create a statement like this? Will it execute? Will it execute? Good. It will not execute. Can I create a statement like this? Will it execute? It executes, right? Got it? So basically this constructor is tagged to new keyword. Fine. And why is it executing this way and why was it not executing the other way? Because this creates a super class type and supercar type and gets it converted to car, which kind of makes sense. But the other way, in your earlier scenario, let me stop it and read on it. Supercar car. Okay, you are creating a car type and you are trying to convert it into supercar type. So it will not allow because supercar contains few more details apart from your car, right? It's an advanced version of it. However, if you create it like this, you are creating a new instance of supercar and trying to convert it into car type. Car is the base class, right? So it will accept. Making sense? And in this scenario, both the constructors would be called. Are you understanding or not? Yes or no? Good. One second. Okay. Prakriti, I think you should type it in a private window, okay? So, because I got confused. I got confused why you were calling me stupid. That's okay. So let's come back to this topic. So in our earlier case, we were the new keyword is tagged to the class which is defined next to it. So you are creating a new supercar type object. Fine. And you are trying to convert it into car type. Fine. This is acceptable because car is the base class. However, when you do it the other way, you are trying to create an instance of your car type and you are trying to convert it back to your supercar type. So, which is not acceptable because the supercar is the child class and it has few more additions to the base class's properties. So, which your base class type instance will not support. Making sense? Is it understood or not? Good. Fine. So this is about your constructors. So now coming back to your inheritance. Now let me make this, or let me create a new class called as base class. Okay, public class abstract. I'm creating it as an abstract class. Okay, base class. Fine. And I'm trying to create some abstract methods inside it. Public abstract add of int a comma int b. Fine. Understood? Okay, good. I missed the. Understood? So if you see, this is an abstract method and it doesn't have any implementation defined inside it. Making sense? It has only definition. It has the return type. It has the parameters associated with it, but it doesn't have any implementation specified. Now what I'll do, instead of inheriting from the supercar, now I am trying to inherit the base class. Fine. Now if I build the code, is it throwing a error? Can someone read the error? Vishwa, can you read the error for me? I think Vishwa has a issue with his mic. So Sai Krishna, can you read this out for me?
Yeah, console 34 supercar does not implement inheritance abstract member.
Good. So what does that mean? It should not, sorry, it should mandatorily provide implementation for the base classes abstract methods, right? Understood? Which we did not do here. Okay, so what I'll do now, public. So let us see how it goes. Okay, public int add of int x comma int y. Fine. So it should return x plus y. Will it work? Will it work or not? No. Why so? Why will it work or why will it not work? Why will it not work? Do you still see the error? Why is it not working? No implement? We have implemented it, right? We have provided the implementation. Vishwa, why is it not compiling now? Vishwa, are you there? Good. If you know, say yes. If you can't guess, say no. Anything is fine. Inherited abstract member is yes. We have already implemented it, but it is still saying that it's not implemented. Why so? When you are rewriting the implementation or providing the implementation, you should use the keyword called as override, right? Signature is matching, man. Okay, it is returning int type and it is accepting int types. Okay, but you did not use the override keyword earlier. Okay, when you are providing the implementation of a base class method or rewriting the base class method in your child class, you should define it as override. Got it? Understood or not? Do you have any questions? Good. Now let me delete all the breakpoints. Now what I am doing, I am removing the so now base class is not an abstract class, it's a normal class. Okay, and the method inside your base class is defined using your virtual keyword. Fine, and return a plus b. Fine. The implementation is a bit different. Okay, so I want to remove this console.writeLine in my base class. How will I do that? Override. Good. Again, I can override it, or if you see, if I don't override it also, it will get compiled. Is it getting compiled now? What does that mean? That means if you are defining the base class as virtual, then it is not mandatory to override it in the child class. But if you are defining it as abstract, then it is mandatory to override it in the child class. Making sense? Good. So now I'm not overriding it, okay, and I'm just leaving it like this, and I'm building the code. Will it get compiled? It will get compiled. Okay, so so this process is called as hiding actually. Okay, you are hiding the base class method. Okay, and now what I'll do, I'll create a new class called as, I'll comment this out. Okay, I don't want this anymore. Okay. And what I am doing in my base class itself, I am creating a new method with the same name, and I am not defining it as virtual, and I am void. Okay, I am defining it as void, and now I am changing the, I don't want to display anything here, and now I am changing the signature of it to accept one more parameter. Fine. So what is this feature called as? You are creating more than one class, sorry, one method with a same name but different signature. What is this called as? What is this called as? Overloading. So when you are rewriting or providing a implementation for your base class method in your child class, what is that called as? Overriding. Making sense? Sai Krishna, Prakriti. Good. So that is about here overriding and overloading. Now one second. Let me add a new item and let me select a interface and I will call it iCar. Fine. Usually as a notation, your interfaces will start with I. Got it? And I'll create a method called as multiply of int a comma int b. Fine. Understood? So here, instead of writing it this way, I'm making it a concrete method. I'm making it a concrete method and I'm providing implementation for it. Right line of a star b, which means I'm multiplying it. So is it throwing a error? What is the error? It says interface member cannot have definition. Okay, don't get confused with terminology. Okay, so this is called as implementation. You should not implement your methods in your interface. They should just be abstract methods. Fine? Making sense? Good. Now let me define my, okay, now let me do something. So I'm trying to inherit my super class from two classes called as car and base class, which are existing in the same namespace. Okay, if I build it, will it work? What error is it throwing? Sai Krishna, please read it out for me.
Supercar cannot have multiple base classes.
What does that mean? One base class, one base class cannot have more than one base classes. You cannot have multiple inheritance through classes. Fine? Is it understood? Is it understood or not? Vishwa, are you there? Vishwa, can you hear me? Good. So now let me replace it with iCar. Will it work? It will work because it will work provided that I implement the abstract method defined in my base class. Okay. So let me implement the abstract method defined in my interface. Console.write line of a into b. Fine. Now let me build this. Does not implement the interface multiply. I have implemented it, right? So let me right click on this and click on implement interface. Fine. So now console.writeLine of a into fine. What is that because of class? I did not get you. Vishwa? Vishwa, what's your question? I did not get you. Fine, you can type it. Good. So now, do you see any error because of adding iCar? No problem. No, right? Which means you can implement, or you can have multiple inheritance implemented through your interfaces, right? And if you see, let me add one more interface here, and I call it base class, and I would call it add, okay, or I would call it subtract. Fine. And now I'll inherit this class from ibase class also, and I'll implement this interface also. Fine. Which means multiple inheritance is supported through interface. You can have any number of interfaces as the base interfaces of your class. Fine. Making sense? Yes or no? However, you can't have more than one base class being inherited by your child class. Fine. Good. So that is about your inheritance, multiple inheritance, abstraction, and class definition. Fine. Good. Now let me create a object of my super class type, okay, supercar type, and it is inheriting your base class, right? So obj dot add is the base class method, so it is being accessible inside your child class also, right? Now let me change this to or let me create one private method, private void base class method. Good. So I have created a base class method. Definition console. Okay, good. So if I hit a dot next to my child classes object, you are unable to access your base class method, which is marked as private from your child classes object. Fine. Which means your base classes private method is accessible only inside the defined class or containing class. Obj base equal to new base class. Fine. Now if I using my base class instance, I should be able to access it. Fine. Does not contain definition. One second. What is this? Does not contain definition for obj. Okay. So is it accessible? Is it accessible from your program? Internet problem? Okay, that's fine. It's not accessible because it's defined as private. Okay. Now let me try accessing base class method inside that class only. Is it accessible from here? Yes, it is. What does that mean? That means it is accessible inside the containing class only. Understood? Yes or no? Good. So that's about here private, public, and they similarly you can implement here other protected internal and protected internal access modifiers also. Is it making sense? Good. Now I have an assignment for you. Okay, so use all the concepts which we have discussed in our class, okay, and create a small project and take the screenshots of every concept. Okay, you need not take the screenshot of everything, but when you are implementing something, take the screenshot of it and put it in a Word document and send it to me by tomorrow. Can we do this? You should create a class, you should create a base class, you should create an abstract class, you should create an interface, you should implement overloading, you should implement overriding, fine, and you should implement encapsulation using access modifiers also. Can we do? Is it doable or not? Say yes or no. We'll try. Okay, this recording will be shared for your reference. If you have any questions, look at it, and still if you are unable to understand something, we'll discuss it in the class again. Vishwa, is it doable? Can you do that or not? I know every one of you are graduating in December, right? So you have a lot of time for your marketing. So you can definitely give it a shot. Okay, so if you don't practice things, believe me, if you don't practice this concept, you will lose the flow completely. You'll not get interested in the remaining concepts. Fine, so try it out. This is the basic thing which you should try. Fine, good. Try it, and if you have any questions, come back to me. We'll discuss it in the class. Fine, awesome. Thanks so much for joining. Let's meet tomorrow at the same time. Thank you. Bye. Good night.